Hello YouTube, and welcome to another movie review from yours truly, Merlin Ravensong. Now the movie that I'm going to be doing a review from is the movie Forbidden Planet. Now first off, let me apologize for not having the original artwork from this movie to show you guys. When I bought this movie years ago from my local video store, I got it for only $2, and the reason why it was so cheap was because they sold me the movie without the artwork. So that is why I don't have the artwork to show you guys, but I'm pretty sure that most of you guys have seen the artwork for the movie Forbidden Planet. If you have not seen the artwork for the movie Forbidden Planet, all you need to do is go to google.com and do a image search, and the images from this movie will pop up for you. So without further ado, here's my review of the movie Forbidden Planet. This movie was done back in the 1950s, and during that time, this was one of the cutting-edge sci-fi movies of its time. One of the reasons why it was so cutting-edge was because they used all electronic music in this movie. You would not hear any other instruments outside of a synthesizer in this movie. I believe they use it's called a Moog synthesizer that they use throughout the soundtrack of the movie. It is the musical score of this movie is just excellent. So I highly praise them for doing that. Also, the special effects of this movie is really good too. But that is not why I'm doing a movie review of this movie. The reason why I'm doing a movie review of this movie is because of all of the hidden messages that lie within this movie. So let me get started. The movie starts off with this rescue team going out to this so-called Forbidden Planet to see what happened to the crew of this other expedition that went out years before. Basically, they want to see if these people are still alive and kicking. So as they arrive on this planet, or actually when they get close to the planet, they get in touch with this guy named Dr. Morpheus, or Dr. Morbus, I'm sorry. Now those of you who know anything about Greek mythology, you know that the word Morbus is a play on the word Morpheus. And Morpheus in Greek mythology was the god of dreams. Anyway, as they approach the planet, they get in contact with Dr. Morbus, and Dr. Morbus says, turn back around. I'm fine here. Everything is just great, And then they ask him about the crew, what happened to them, and he basically says, well, they're all dead, and whatnot. So, of course, the rescue team is highly suspicious of this. They want to figure out what happened. So they say, hey, we got to land. So they land the spacecraft. And one of the first beings that they encounter is not a human being, but a robot. And the robot is the first person that greets them in the movie, which I thought was really cool. And the robot actually became kind of famous. His name was Robby the Robot. And those of you who know anything about sci-fi, I'm pretty sure are familiar with Robby the Robot. He was sort of like the, how can I say it? Sort of like the archetype of the robot that later was in a lot of other sci-fi movies. And apparently during the production of the movie, Robby the Robot cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And an interesting thing about it is, I'm pretty sure Robby the Robot is still around in some museum somewhere, and he's probably worth even more now, even though he's not a real robot. But anyway, they arrive on this planet. First person they meet is Robby the Robot. Robby the Robot introduces them, or takes them to Dr. Morbus. And Dr. Morbus like any other mad scientist or highly evolved satanic figure um, that Hollywood liked to portray back in those days. He had the goatee, and he wore black, which I thought was interesting. Now, Dr. Morbius lived on this planet that was originally inhabited by a race of beings called the Coils. And the Coils was these highly evolved beings that basically evolved to a point that they got so smart and so sophisticated that they eventually end up killing themselves. But the thing that I found interesting is that Dr. Morbius, years later, 2,000 years, I believe, later, comes across the Coil writings, and he basically wants to know why these beings died and what happened to them. So he starts studying the technology that they left behind, and one of the things they left behind was this machine that will give them heightened intelligence. So he hooks himself up to this machine, and he gets all this heightened intelligence, which allows him to do things like build his little space base on the Forbidden Planet. It allows him to build Robby the Robot, and allows him to understand at least a little bit of the technology that the Coil left behind. Now, along with this heightened sense of intelligence came a dark side, I guess, if you will. And because he was a man of science and he used pure logic and reason to understand the universe around him, he basically forgot about his imagination, the side of him that was hooked to his lower or basic instincts. So basically, what happens is he gets this heightened sense of intelligence, but he totally forgets about the id. And the id, if I read to you the standard definition of the id is the unorganized personality structure that contains the basic drives. The basic drives in humans. And we all know what those basic drives are: food, water, sex, and things along those natures. If you ever seen the George Romero movies, when you see the zombies coming back to life, basically they're a creature of habit. One of the first things they want to do is eat, and they don't know the distinction between real food and humans, so they start, of course, eating humans. And another thing that's interesting about especially in the later George Romero movies, is they start hanging out at malls, which is definitely a take on modern society, zombies hanging out at malls. Anyway, back to the movie Forbidden Planet, which I'm running out of time. Dr. Morbius, who is not in touch with his basic human drives, lets loose a monster, his subconscious. Somehow his subconscious creates itself in the physical world. And the first crew that arrived on this Forbidden Planet is all killed by Dr. Morbius. Not Dr. Morbius himself, but the id of Dr. Morbius. So the monster that was roaming around the Forbidden Planet is really the id monster. It is really a part of him. And if you watch the movie, and if you watch the close-up, when they actually show you a part of the picture of the monster, you would notice that the monster looks a little bit like Dr. Morbius. Okay, so I left a lot out, and it's because I only have 10 minutes to do this video. Definitely check this movie out from your local video store, and maybe I'll do a part 2 of this series on the movie Forbidden Planet. So, until next time, love is the law, love under will. and peace.